The lights in the studio glared like the sun. Red, white, and blue lights swirled behind Congressman Thomas Massie as he stood at the center of the stage, his suit crisp, his voice steady. "We can't keep pretending," he said, looking directly into the camera. "The MAGA movement has lost its way." Gasps, whispers. Journalists froze mid-note. The host blinked twice, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Viewers at home clutched their phones, their mouths open. Just months ago, Massie was a favorite among conservative voters. Now live on global TV, he had turned. "I stood by Trump, I fought hard. But this movement became something darker, and I won't defend it anymore." Twitter exploded. The control room buzzed. Some shouted, others wept. In Kentucky, a retired factory worker crushed his soda can in disbelief. In Texas, a military widow called her daughter, crying, "They're all abandoning us." In Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré watched the broadcast in silence, arms folded. The betrayal wasn't just political, it was spiritual for many. Traoré knew that silence wasn't an option anymore. A red light blinked next to his webcam. He leaned forward. He was going live. As Thomas Massie adjusted his tie and soaked in the global attention, a voice cut in. "Congressman Massie," said Captain Ibrahim Traoré, his tone calm but sharp. "Before you rewrite history, let's speak the truth." The camera cut to Traoré. Seated in a minimalist studio in Burkina Faso, he looked calm. Behind him, a digital map of the world pulsed slowly in blue. Massie chuckled. "And who are you to lecture me about American politics?" Traoré didn't flinch. "I'm not here for lectures. I'm here because your words don't match your record." Everyone froze. The host tried to speak but stopped himself. The studio air turned heavy. "You claim you fought for truth? For the people?" Traoré raised a folder marked, "Evidence." "Let's open this together, Congressman." Massie squinted. "What is that?" "Testimonies, leaked recordings, and a personal letter, signed by a grieving U.S. Marine's widow, begging you to keep your word, but you didn't." Gasps echoed across the studio. The host slowly leaned back. In homes across America, veterans stared at their screens in shock. Mothers cried, some prayed. Traoré wasn't angry. He was heartbreakingly honest, and that was more powerful than rage. Traoré gently unfolded the letter, holding it in two hands. His voice softened. "I received this last week. It's from a woman named Amanda Whitmore, whose husband died in Afghanistan. He trusted your votes, Congressman. He believed in what you said." Massie's face twitched. "That's not fair." "She wrote," Traoré continued, "My husband wore the flag with pride. He believed our leaders would honor that sacrifice. But Congressman Massie voted to cut the benefits meant to keep our daughter fed." Gasps rippled across the studio. One camera zoomed in on Massie's face. He looked like a man who had just lost the room. Traoré's voice cracked just slightly. "That child, her name is Grace. She's 6. Her favorite food is spaghetti. She draws pictures of her father every night before bed." A tear rolled down the host's cheek. Even the control room went quiet. Traoré looked into the lens. "You speak of truth, Congressman. But truth isn't what's convenient. It's what's human." Massie lowered his eyes. The audience didn't move. The silence was thunderous. Somewhere in rural Kentucky, Amanda watched, clutching her daughter, both of them crying. And this was only the beginning. The lights in the studio flickered, as if reacting to the tension in the air. Thomas Massie stood silent, blinking. The letter Traoré had just read was still echoing in the minds of millions. Somewhere, someone sniffled. A cameraman wiped his eye. Even the anchor, who had hosted hundreds of political debates, was visibly shaken. Massie tried to recover. "Look, this is emotional manipulation. I didn't know about that case." Traoré leaned slightly forward on the screen, his voice low, firm. You didn't know, because you didn't care to listen. The words hit harder than a shout. The studio was frozen. The only sound was the quiet buzz of the LED wall behind them. And then, a new screen lit up behind Traoré. A video. A woman sitting at a kitchen table, holding her daughter on her lap. It was Amanda Whitmore. My husband died believing in a country that's forgotten us, she said, voice trembling. Grace looked at the camera and whispered, I miss Daddy. A sob escaped from somewhere in the live audience. Even through the screen, viewers could feel it. A crack forming in the heart of the nation. And Massie was standing in the middle of it. As Amanda's video faded out, Traoré pressed a button beside him. Another screen lit up. This time it wasn't a letter. It was a document. Simple. Black and white. Official. The burn pit bill, Traoré said calmly. You voted against it, Congressman. Massie swallowed. That bill was flawed. You voted against helping soldiers who inhaled toxic smoke for years. Soldiers who now cough up blood in their sleep. Soldiers who can't hug their children without collapsing. The document on screen zoomed in. Massie. Nay. Traoré's voice broke just slightly. One of them is named Devin Carter. He served in Iraq. Came home with tumors in his lungs. Guess where he is now? Silence. In hospice. He has a 7-year-old son. His wife works 2 jobs to pay medical bills that your vote helped deny. Massie stammered. There were budget issues. Traoré stared into the camera. No, there were people. The host whispered, We're going to commercial. But the producers waved it off. They knew this was no longer a political segment. It was a reckoning. And America was watching. Phones at the studio had been ringing non-stop, but the producers muted them all. Except one. A call came in. The number flashed on the main monitor. Private Devin Carter, Ohio. The host looked stunned. Should we take it? Traoré nodded. Let the people speak. A second later, Devin's voice came through the speakers, weak, raspy, but clear. Congressman Massie, I'm not calling to attack you. I just want to know why. Massie froze. Why'd you vote against me when I gave everything for you? Why did you ignore us? Devin coughed violently. The studio sat paralyzed. No one dared to cut the call. Massie looked down. No words came out. Traoré gently added, He's not the only one, but he's the one still breathing. For now. Devin continued. My son asked me last night if I'll be at his birthday. I lied. Because I won't. Someone in the audience burst into tears. Massie's hands trembled. The cameras caught it. I don't want pity, Devin said. I want dignity. The call ended. And in that moment, the flashy studio didn't matter. Politics didn't matter. Only truth did. And the truth was cutting deeper than anyone expected. The studio was still thick with emotion after Devin Carter's call ended. The cameras panned to Thomas Massie, who now looked visibly shaken. His confident, sharp tone had cracked, replaced by silence. Then Traoré leaned closer, voice steady, but fierce. Congressman, it's easy to speak in grand ideas when you're far removed from those who suffer the consequences. Massie opened his mouth, but Traoré held up a hand. This isn't about politics. It's about the broken promises you made to real people. People like Lena, a nurse from Ohio. She works 2 jobs because her husband's medical bills are sky high. Her husband Mike, a veteran, struggles to breathe after exposure to toxic chemicals. The screen behind Traoré flashed a photo of Lena and Mike, smiling despite the hardships. Tell me, Congressman, what did your vote do to help Mike? Massie's eyes flickered with doubt. For a moment, he was silent. The studio seemed to hold its breath. Traoré's voice softened. These are the people you betrayed, but I'm here to fight for them no matter the distance. A single tear rolled down the host's cheek. The world watched, hearts breaking, hope stirring. Traoré pressed a button, and suddenly a video played on the big LED screen behind him. Grainy footage from a small American hospital. A nurse, exhausted but determined, spoke softly to a camera. "This is Mike. He was just 34 when he started coughing up blood. Doctors said it was from chemical exposure in service. The bills piled up. We had no choice but to sell our home." The nurse's eyes welled up. "We wrote letters to our representatives, but no one answered. Until now." Traoré's voice echoed through the studio. "This video was sent to me by Mike's wife. They wanted their story told. The truth that Congressman Massie turned away from." Massie's face was pale. The silence in the studio was deafening. The anchor whispered, "This is bigger than politics now." The audience at home sat frozen, some wiping tears, others staring at their screens in disbelief. This was no longer just a confrontation between two men. It was the voice of countless forgotten families, finally heard. The moment stretched long. Massie finally broke the silence, voice barely audible. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was trying to balance budgets." Traoré interrupted gently but firmly. "Budgets don't breathe. Budgets don't cry. People do." The host nodded solemnly, turning to the camera. "Tonight, we witnessed a battle not just of politics, but of conscience." Across America, phones buzzed with messages. Veterans shared their own stories. Families called friends to talk. Tears mixed with anger. Traoré looked directly into the camera. "To the families out there still struggling, you are not alone. This fight is just beginning." Massie's eyes dropped to the floor. The studio's bright lights flickered as if the world itself held its breath. And millions of viewers leaned closer, waiting for what would come next. The camera cut to another video, this time, a quiet suburban home in rural Kentucky. The screen showed a small boy, no older than 8, clutching a faded photo of his father in military uniform. "This is Jacob," Traoré said softly, "the son of Sergeant Will Thompson, who died from injuries in combat." The boy's mother stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her eyes told a deeper story. "We had health insurance, but when Will came home, the treatments were expensive. Congress voted against funding the care he needed." She paused, swallowing back tears. "We lost our home. Jacob had to change schools. Sometimes I'm not sure if I'll be able to keep feeding him." Massie's face twitched, but he said nothing. Traoré continued. "Jacob sent letters to Congressman Massie, letters full of hope and questions about why no one was helping." The studio was silent except for the boy's soft voice reading a letter aloud. "Please don't forget my daddy." Viewers across America watched the boy's trembling lips. Mothers reached for their children. Fathers looked away. The cost of political betrayal was no longer numbers. It was human lives. Massie cleared his throat, trying to regain composure. "I never wanted this to happen," he muttered. "Budgets are complicated. I'm just one vote." Traoré shook his head, eyes burning with quiet fury. "One vote," he said. "But that vote could mean the difference between life and death for families like the Thompsons, the Carters, and so many others." He looked straight into the camera. "Silence in the face of suffering is betrayal." Suddenly, the host broke the silence. "Captain Traoré, what do you suggest should be done?" Traoré smiled gently. "We must listen. We must act. Leaders have a duty not just to laws, but to the people." He paused, voice softening. "It starts with empathy, understanding that every number in a budget is a human heart beating, a family hoping." Massie looked down, the weight of truth settling on him. Outside, millions of viewers were moved, some crying quietly, others wiping tears away openly. The room was no longer just a studio. It was a mirror, reflecting the soul of a nation. As the debate reached a fever pitch, an unexpected voice rang out from the control room. "Sir," said a young staffer, "we just received a message from Senator Lisa Morales. She wants to speak." The host nodded and switched the feed. Senator Morales appeared on the screen, her face resolute but kind. "I've watched this entire exchange," she began. "And I agree with Captain Traoré. We must do better for our veterans and their families." She addressed Massie directly. "Congressman, it's not too late to stand with us, to fight for those who gave everything." Massie looked at the screen, tears welling up. For the first time, he nodded slowly. Traoré smiled, a spark of hope shining through the tension. "This isn't a fight about sides," Traoré said. "It's a fight about humanity." The studio erupted in applause. The world was watching, and something was changing. The camera zoomed in on a faded, handwritten letter held by Traoré. "This letter was sent to me yesterday," Traoré said softly. "From a father named Samuel. He lost his son in Afghanistan." He unfolded the letter carefully, reading aloud. "Dear Congressman Massie, my son Jake was 21. He believed in America, in its promises. When he died, we were told to be proud. But my family has been left in silence, struggling with medical bills, with grief. I ask you, where is the care? Where is the justice?" Massie's jaw tightened. His eyes flickered with pain. Traoré looked into the camera. Jake's story isn't unique. It's echoed in thousands of homes. And yet votes were cast that ignored their cries. Across America, families held their own letters close. Tears spilled silently. "Congressman," Traoré said, "leadership isn't about power. It's about standing for those who cannot stand anymore." Massie's voice cracked as he finally whispered, "I want to make this right." The studio held its breath. Traoré nodded, accepting the weight of those words. "Promises matter," he said. "But promises without action are just words." He spoke of plans, real, immediate steps to rebuild what had been broken. Better health care for veterans, support for families, and accountability from leaders. Massie slowly stood, looking tired but resolute. "I pledge to fight for those I failed," he said. "Starting now." The host, eyes moist, smiled gently. "This is the kind of leadership our country needs." Traoré's eyes shone with hope. "We all carry the scars of our past, but together we can heal." Across the globe, millions watched. Some cried openly, others whispered prayers. The moment wasn't just political. It was profoundly human. The world had witnessed something rare, a fracture in pride, replaced by the humility to change. The studio lights softened as Traoré concluded. "To those suffering in silence, your voices are heard. We see you. We fight for you." He glanced warmly at Massie. "Leadership is not about division. It is about unity, about lifting each other when the world feels cold." Massie wiped a tear. "Thank you, Captain Traoré, for reminding me of what truly matters." The broadcast ended with a final message scrolling across the LED screen. "To all who serve and sacrifice, your country remembers. Your leaders must too." Millions logged off that night with heavy hearts, but newfound hope. And as the cameras went dark, one truth remained clear. When courage meets compassion, even the deepest wounds can begin to heal. The studio was quiet, but the silence carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories. Captain Ibrahim Traoré looked directly into the camera, his voice steady but filled with deep emotion. "Every vote cast is more than politics. It carries the hopes and fears of families across continents." He paused. "Thomas Massie, your betrayal cut deep. But the courage you show now, choosing to listen, to fight, is the beginning of healing." Massie nodded slowly, eyes glistening with tears. The host's voice was gentle but firm. "Change isn't easy. but it is possible. Millions of viewers held their breath as Traoré concluded, "We owe it to the fallen, to the families, to the future." Outside the studio, across cities and small towns, something shifted. Families who had suffered in silence found their voices again. Veterans groups sent messages of gratitude. Children who had lost parents in war drew pictures inspired by the broadcast, images of hope and unity. Massie began working with Traoré and Senator Morales on new legislation to support veterans and their families. The world watched as political lines blurred and humanity took center stage. The final moments of the broadcast were quiet, yet profound. Traoré spoke softly. "Leadership is not about power or division. It is about service, empathy, and standing for those who cannot stand for themselves." Massie wiped a tear. "Thank you, Captain, for reminding me of what truly matters." The studio lights dimmed, but the glow of hope illuminated screens everywhere. If this story touched your heart, please hit like and subscribe, because together we can share stories that matter. Comment below. What part moved you the most? Who do you think needs to hear this message? Your voice can help bring light to the darkest places. Don't just watch, join the conversation. Let's build a world where leadership means love and courage. Thank you for watching. Your support means everything.